I'm going to introduce Tor real quickly. Going to be kind of honest, because I have to set up the scenario so you understand what Tor has done here. Okay, this is Gray, and it is amazing. And the work that Gray has done here in New York and worldwide has been fantastic. And I know this because I went head to head with Tor and his gang in the satellite TV wars, and I got my ass kicked, handed to me. Phenomenal work has come out of here. But you gotta remember that Gray used to be Gray. While back, before the era, okay? You didn't need to be brave because you always knew, well, I could always just go to Gray, you know? And it was so much easier. And you know, it was just the kind of place where you came 9 to 5 and you did your work, and then Tor came in and ruined everything, and everyone had to work, and everyone had to be brave, and we had to have these seminars. So Tor is a great example of what I was trying to talk about, where it only takes a few people to take that chance and do something brave, and then you make the great work, and people just flock to it. You just need that one spark. And you know, I've watched, you know, since he got here, and now you have this. So it's been a fantastic job. So I'd like to introduce you to Tor, and he's photographer Wyatt Neumann.
Thank you. Is this on? Thank you, Gerry. That was actually the nicest setup ever that anyone's ever given me. And I didn't even think you liked me. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to say just a couple of words and then introduce somebody that's very interesting and special. You know, there's 1,000 people that work in this building now for Gray, and there's about 5,000 around the world. And as CCO of that, I've realized that, you know, yes, it's important that I have moments of bravery, but really the most important thing that I can do now is to empower and encourage the people at Gray to have bravery and feel comfortable in an environment that they feel they can take chances in, because that's to me what bravery is. So we created something 6 years ago. This is one example of we try to do a lot of things to empower bravery here, but one of the things we do that's very tangible is something we call the Heroic Failure Award. Let me show it to you. This is it. So there's 7. For 6 years, there's 7 people that have won this, which means there's less people that have won this award in this building right now than have won Gold Lions at Cannes, which means that this is actually the most coveted award that we have at Gray, and I'm not kidding. I always say, awesome to win it, just don't win it twice. No, but the truth is, we give this to ideas at Gray that don't work out the way we wanted to, but that if we had to do all over again, we would do the exact same thing, because we as a company are super, super proud of those ideas. And they just failed, okay? They failed sometimes on a pretty massive level. They weren't dangerous ideas, but they did fail fairly publicly. So for instance, I'll tell you 2 of them. One of them was, I think it was year 2 or 3 with the E-Trade baby. We did a big Super Bowl spot where one of the last line was, well, they were talking about a baby named Lindsay and called her a milkaholic. Our agency got sued by Lindsay Lohan for $100 million. It's a pretty heroic failure. She dropped the suit, and I think the whole thing was a PR stunt for her. But that's an interesting failure in itself. And then the other one, which is I find really funny, so the entire E-Trade team is on this award. And then the other one is, there was a young account person. We were pitching something called Litter Genie. Has anyone heard of Litter Genie? So it's like Diaper Genie, but for cat shit. Okay, and so you can just keep piling in the cat shit and close it and it won't smell. I don't know why you would do that, but that's what you do with this thing. So we were pitching this thing, and so she had this idea that, so she went to the zoo and she got panther shit. Big panther shit, and she stuffed this thing in a month before the pitch. She sticks it in there, she seals the thing. we're sitting in the pitch, big conference table. We go through the whole thing. The whole idea, the big idea we were presenting was about how, it could be right there and you'd never even know it because you can't smell it. So at the end of the pitch, she says to the client, hey, and by the way, look under the table. Look at that. That's filled with Panther shit, right? And it's been here the whole time, and none of us have known it, right? So the CMO was heavily OCD. He threw his chair back, walked out, slammed the door, and we never heard from them again. And so she also won the Heroic Failure Award because I would do that 10 out of 10 times. I think that is I really do. I think that's a brilliant idea, right? And that is proof. The proof of the product is sitting under the table full of Panther shit. So anyway, that's all I have to say about bravery and failure. So I want to introduce you to Wyatt Neumann. I met Wyatt recently, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. We worked on a project together, and I was immediately taken by his story, which I'll let him tell you. It's about him and his, at the time, 2-year-old daughter. When I met Wyatt, I had him come to our agency, because the other thing we do to fuel and encourage bravery is to have people like Wyatt come and talk to our agency about this. And I told Wyatt when he was here that, and I can't give you this because you don't work here, but his story is a heroic failure. It really is, and it's a fascinating story. I think it's a brave story, and I think it's something that is a brilliant example of when you hit adversity. They always say it's your character is judged not in the good times but the bad times, and I think Wyatt is a perfect example of this. So, ladies and gentlemen, Wyatt Neumann.
Thank you. Hi, and thanks for that introduction. I am, speaking of bravery, the only person who didn't come with a fully done presentation and nothing written down, so I'm just going to kind of wing it. But no, Tor's right. I had a situation that occurred. I've been an advertising person for a long time. I've worked as a creative director at some of the same agencies Winston's been at, and I've been a director and a photographer for about 15 years. And I understand a lot of what Gerry's talking about and the other presenters, the difficulty that you go through trying to win business and trying to change clients' minds and trying to push work forward. I mean, I did that for years, and it's very trying. But my story is a little different in that what the decisions that I made impacted my life in a personal way and in a professional way, and in a very real, tangible way. I was in the center of an international censorship issue stemming from photography that I had done, particularly of my daughter and of my son. And so I was in this situation where I was sort of cruising along, doing my work, being my happy self and living my life, being a great dad and traveling and having a lot of fun, being a professional director, freelancer, photographer. And then I was suddenly that. I woke up one morning and all over the internet was accusations of me being a child pornographer, me being a pedophile and a creep all around. The title that I have there comes from some anonymous internet commentary that had popped up on the web and had a very real and tangible effect on my life in as much as this group of people came in and shut down my Instagram, shut down my Facebook. Tried to contact my administrator for my website to shut my website down, which was all of those things as a photographer are very important sort of touch points for your own sort of media and your own voice. So that was something that happened to me, and I kind of hit this point where something happens, you're kind of faced with a multitude of decisions, right? You've got your initial response is to fight back. Your initial response is to, which I did. I actually contacted some of these, the administrator of this site that this came from particularly, and you want to set the record straight. You want to defend yourself. You want to get in there and say, hey, you've got it all wrong. Let me show you who I really am. But the minute I did that, it got worse, and it was only growing. This issue went on to become, the story that you're about to see got picked up by the Huffington Post. Was the 4th most read article last year. It was international in a day. I was in Time Magazine. I was on CNN. It became a pretty big deal, and I think a big part of that was the way that I responded to it, because when you get sort of, and this is what I said when I was here last time with Tor, was that you get sort of stuck in these situations, or when you get stuck in these situations, if you've done everything up until that point with integrity, if you stand on your own 2 feet and you believe in what you do, then it's not that difficult to be brave. You're not making a choice in the moment where the propensity or the possibility of failure is really that clear because you just follow your heart. And I think that, your heart and, your integrity, it gives you something to dig your heels into and a place to stand when the shitstorm comes your way. So I'm going to play this quick video. This is a company did this, which kind of tells everything. It saves me some time.
People are jacking off the pictures of my kids. They said that. Sick perverts my photos being traded on the deep web and all this stuff. And that I've basically exploited my children and put them into the hands of pedophiles. I was in Zion National Park with my family, and I was going to drive a car that we just purchased back to New York. My wife said, "You should take Stella with you," because my son had school alone, my daughter didn't. She's only 2. It was very much like we just decided what to do in the moment. So that sort of freedom allowed us to really kind of stop and shoot and take pictures and go for walks and hike and play by a stream. Just where she had this dress that she wore the whole time, basically every day, was this like costume gown that we bought that has butterfly wings. She loves it. It's one of those things that she can't not wear. But it has lace bottoms, so there's Velcro tabs in the car seat. So every time she'd sit in it, it just bugged her. So as I put her in the car, she'd be like, dress off. And I just pull her dress off, throw it in the car. And then it was just really like the course of 24 hours. They went in and they started going through my photographs and they started flagging them.
Well, what pornography and obscenity is really hard to define, as you, I'm sure, know. Famously, the Supreme Court said that I know it when I know it when I see it.
And so somebody said it was this group, Get Off My Internets, and they were like, and I looked it up online, and it was, sure enough, it was there. It was this whole page of like all these comments that I've got posted around here, that I'm a sicko and a pervert.
Where they said he himself was a sexual abuser. In fact, if you get libeled in the old days, you had no recourse really but to sue. That was the only way to get back at whoever had said something nasty about you. Now you go on your blog and you can respond.
I write what's happening. Like when she was on the bed in the hotel naked, I said, like, what's, when daddy has to do work, what's a little girl supposed to do? Like get naked, get nude, and jump on the bed, obviously. So it's very clear what's going on. It's not like some mysterious, like, naked kid in a hotel room, like, left up to sort of this query of what's really happening.
I do agree with the rights of the people protesting to do what they did. I'm surprised they had the success they had when I don't think they really have A, much legality behind them, and B, I'm not sure they have that much moral force behind them because it is the fathers.
My purpose in doing the show was to take those two, to physically, present both sides of that discussion. My photography with what I say across the room from comments from these people, and it makes you have to look at it and decide, like, that's what really bothered me, was the idea that they would look at my children and see something, not only something sexualized from my perspective, but even that she would have a sort of hypersexualized behavior. And I was like, why? What are you seeing? Like, what do you think she's doing with her hands down her pants? Do you think she's like masturbating? And even if she is, like as a 2-year-old, that's whatever.
The pictures that I've seen of this 2-year-old girl don't seem at all pornographic.
They come at it with this darkness that doesn't need to be there, And I think, part of my artist statement on the show is, we can choose to fight hatred with love, and we can choose to, to see things in any sort of way. That comes from us, and I try to lead with love, and I try to lead with this idea of innocence, and it's people deciding for other people based on a moral authority that they feel they're entitled to, that affects other people's freedoms and liberties.
greater diversity of views is a good thing. That was the First Amendment's all about. So from a First Amendment point of view, it's hard to say that this hasn't all been to the better.
One of the things that I didn't expect that has happened, a ton of people bring their kids. They've been coming to the gallery with their children, with teenagers, preteen kids, and letting them read these, I mean, obviously profane comments, and look at these photographs. To me, that being able to express my, and sort of document my children's lifestyle, to me is my right, and that's something that, and it's my right as an artist, it's my right as a writer, you know, I mean, the things I write, I mean, they censored my diary, basically, of these kids' experiences, and you have to make a stand when those things happen, you have to do something, especially when it happens to you.
Oh yeah, I guess that's from the video. So anyway, so that was the situation. Pretty intense and definitely threw me for a loop. I think that the reason that the story wasn't really interesting before I responded to it. It was typical anonymous trolling. There certainly was an effect on my ability to interact with my digital life. But that was just my own problem. That was just something I had to deal with. Like I said, I could have fought back, forever. I could have sued them. I mean, like he said, when you get libeled, you can sue. I mean, they made some pretty inflammatory comments about me that were lawsuit worthy. But at the end of the day, and I think, to the creative work that we all do, I looked at it and I said, this is something beautiful. This is something that's worthwhile, and this is something that I believe in. And so it's something that I need to fight for. And in order to fight for it and to win, I need to convince people that there's a good idea here and that there's something that there's merit in it. And so taking all that negativity and kind of, like I said in the video, like there's that fork in the road, where, that kind of attitude brings you to a certain place. And the place that I was in, the end of the line for me was, they're gallery-worthy shows, or photographs. They deserve to be somewhere beautiful because that's the way I see them. And so that was the decision that I made, and that was really what got me kind of all the attention for it, and that was kind of it. And the last thing I wanted to kind of end with was my mom, who swears she's not really on social media, and she's turned off her Facebook and turns it back on, and then turns it off again and turns it back on. She doesn't understand that you can actually turn your Facebook notifications off, so she still gets emails about stuff, and she saw that I was doing this. And my mom's story is pretty interesting, and maybe this is sort of where I get some of it, but I wanted to read you something she wrote me last night, just sort of thoughts from her that, again, off the advertising topic, but are pretty interesting. So my mom wrote me, and this may be the first time someone's read a letter from their mother at one of these, but I don't give a shit. So my mom wrote, on bravery, I have some thoughts. When I was 16, I left home for the West and other unknowns. Many people said I was brave. Unsure of what they meant, I shrugged it off. When your father died, I was 21 and carried on alone as a mother and provided for 2 young babies. Many people said I had courage. Again, I dismissed it. When your stepfather and I sailed 15,000 miles on a small sailboat, the word bravery yet reappeared. Somehow, through all those scenarios, I wasn't feeling brave ever, because most of the time I was scared shitless. Later, I realized that bravery and courage are heart words. Brava is Italian for good, cour is French for heart. And to live by your heart is to be true and whole, alive and scared. Redefining bravery in today's world can mean something new. I believe we are brave and we have to be, because when what we're doing must be done. Often the outcome is unknown, but our hearts demand action, so we do it. And our hearts are not stupid. And she goes on to say some personal stuff. What'd she say here? Brave is hurdling 2,000 miles. Brave is and don't forget to call your sister. No. Brave is hurdling 2,000 miles to hold a woman you can't bear to lose, working long hours for your children's education, and facing critics when your photos go viral because you must. That's heart, love, commitment, and hope. Those are my thoughts. Love you, Mom. So.
All right, this on? Yeah. Thank you, Tor. Thank you, Wyatt. That was fantastic. I have two girls. I don't know what would happen if I had to go through that. I've gone through minor stuff when the full force of the internet and media come after you, and there's that point, right, where you know it's not going to end. There's one day that just goes, oh, it's going to come. And
that was the thing, just sorry to jump in, but when it had permanence, like, it was almost like if I didn't do something,
yeah,
it was going to be a smear on my name forever.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Now you Google it, me, and you don't see all these horrible things about me. You see this beautiful story of reactions.
That's what is the best thing about it. You took this horrible thing and you made art out of it, and you turned it into something great. So, thank you.